I, 22, live in an indoor apartment building, like the kind you see on Friends. My next door neighbor is heavily pregnant and the father of her baby, and on and off boyfriend dumped her a few weeks prior to my making this post. How do I know this? Well, it's just one of the many personal things that she told me. My neighbor, who I shall call Lynne, is always lingering around my apartment and always somehow knows when I'm leaving. Whenever I go to grocery shop, Lynne manages to catch me both on the exit and return trip and talks my ear off. Whenever I go to my friend's house for band practice, 5 times a week, but possibly all 7, depending, she is right there in the hallway. She has told me many personal things that I have no business knowing and quite frankly don't want to know, such as her rocky childhood, previous boyfriends that have been abusive, her recent ex who dumped her, and so many other things. I have tried to be friendly and politely remove myself from the situation, but there's a reason that I live alone and I just couldn't anymore. Multiple times, I have used the fire escape outside of my window just to be left alone. I feel sorry for Lynne, but I don't actually like her and don't have any interest in hearing her talk whatsoever. Does that make me a jerk? Possibly. But just you wait. Lynne has, multiple times, knocked on my door, asking if she could have some of the meals that I make because she can smell them through the vents. She has asked that I stay over with her at night because she's scared to be alone since we live in a horrible part of the city, and then when I try to refuse, cries and whines until I agree. I have gone to the store several times for her, I've somehow ended up at a few ultrasound appointments, I think that's the correct term, and have even lent her money for baby supplies. Earlier today, she approached me while I was leaving to check the mail and started to talk about her mom, who doesn't seem like a pleasant lady but is, apparently, stable. She ranted and raved for a few minutes before I finally said, I'm paraphrasing here, since I can't remember exactly, can you just shut up and leave me alone already? I'm not your husband. As you can expect, she got quite upset and went back into her apartment. I don't know how I should feel about that, but I'm feeling a little guilty. I know that I'm a jerk, but am I the idiot here? Everyone's the idiot here. Though she's worse. Neither of you knows what boundaries are. She's apparently never met a boundary she didn't cross. You've apparently never figured out how to set a boundary. You should never have opened yourself to intimacies like going to her prenatal appointments or staying the night. Learn to say no and make it stick. No, I can't listen to your story, have a good evening, go inside and shut the door in her face. Everyone's the idiot here. She's intrusive, invasive, and grasping, but you're a doormat. You've provided no boundaries, so of course, she walks all over you. You're an adult now, and you need to learn how to set healthy boundaries with other people. Now you know what happens when you don't, you get used, and you get angry, and then you lash out. The only guilt you should have here is guilt about not taking proper care of yourself and extending yourself too far for others, sometimes expressed as setting yourself on fire to keep others warm. You're the idiot. Yeah, I get it. She's as irritating as a Brillo sweater, but geez. You went from 0 to 100 in a blink. Seems you are equally frustrated with your own inability to make her take your subtle hints as you were with her deviltry. I notice some people on this app tend to think that because someone does something wrong, or in this case, multiple things, then they have carte blanche to act or react any old way. No one rises when everyone has low expectations, or something. My husband was raised by a single mom that worked 2 jobs so most nights, the boys were left to their own devices or one of their much older siblings would drop off fast food. Sunday was her one day off, and she'd make a huge dinner, roast, potatoes, veggies, etc. She continued this, even after they were grown, moved out and she no longer had to work 2 jobs. She died 10 years ago, and we all missed that roast. Recently, my husband has been talking about it a lot lately. So I decided a few Sundays ago to make the roast. I got the recipe card from his older sister, so it'd be exactly the same, followed it to a T. He and the kids were so excited. I was too. I think it turned out fine. I followed it exactly and the kids and I loved it. However, my husband found everything to complain about. The potatoes weren't right, the chicken didn't taste the same, etc. He was really disappointed and I said, maybe part of the roast being so good was that it was the one meal a week his mom cooked, so it was special. I cook every night and I'm not his mom. He looked me in the eye and said, "Or you just bad at making this," almost like he was mad at me, it was in his tone and voice. So, I was done. I felt really unappreciated and I just packed up the leftovers, which he brought to work every day, and complained it just wasn't the same and that I wasn't a good cook. But he ate them all. And we had other stuff he could bring, no one was forcing him to eat it. This past Saturday he asked why I stopped making the roast. I said, because apparently I don't make it right. He acted like I was crazy so I made it yesterday. Same damn thing. He hated it, whined about how I can make anything but his roast. So I said I'm never making it again. I'm done. He got mad and said he wants the kids to have this tradition. I said I'm not hearing his whining every week. We'll have a Sunday dinner but no more roast. I also packed the leftovers for the kids today too and the remaining for myself. He called me a bitter idiot. Am I being one? Not the idiot. Yes, he might have been reacting emotionally and out of grief for his mom, but it's not cool to take it out on you. He should show appreciation for your efforts instead of complaining about it. I would tell him, in a clear and frank manner, that his complaining hurt your feelings and made you feel unappreciated. I've made favorite dishes that my late grandmother used to make. I've followed the exact recipe to a T, but it never tastes the same. Sometimes the missing ingredient is the loved one, and eating the dish without them leaves you lacking the same feelings you had when they were alive. Not the idiot. Is this real? Is he for real? Cause what the hell? Because I want to assume there must be some redeeming quality to a human you've married, maybe he hasn't really processed his grief around his mom passing. But he's insane if he thinks anyone would cook something for him again when his comment is, or you just bad at making this. Your kids don't need a tradition of him belittling and insulting you and your efforts. I hope for your sake this is the only red flag this man is waving cause geez is it big. Not the idiot. It seems like this roast turned him back into a kid, considering how immature he is behaving. What does he expect? For you to keep making it and being pulled down by him every time? If he is not happy with how it turns out, I suppose he should stand in the kitchen and cook. I don't think it is impossible he just associates the dish with his mom too much to feel the same way about eating your roast, but this is absolutely no reason to tear you down for it. My 4-year-old has decided to become a picky eater. He doesn't have autism or anything else that causes sensory issues, he's just picky now. He used to be willing to eat anything. If he had his way he'd only eat French fries and goldfish. Obviously, I'm not going to let him only eat those two things. I'm also not going to be bossed around by a toddler. What I've been doing is that if he turns up his nose at a meal, I'll just say something like alright, I guess you can eat this later and put the food in the fridge. If he asks for a snack, I offer him the food, and if he refuses, no snacks except for milk, at the next meal, I'll offer it to him then if he didn't eat it before. He carries on for a bit, but he eventually gets hungry enough that he'll eat whatever it was he was refusing to eat before. He's never gone more than a day of refusing to eat, if he did I'd probably feed him something else. My mom friends are horrified I do this to my kid and tell me I'm old-fashioned. I also feel like the worst mother in the world when my kid is whining about how hungry he is. For the record, my husband is completely on board with this method. Am I the idiot for letting him go hungry? Edit. I don't want to force him to eat things he hates, I do want to promote his individuality. I feel like I have no other choice but to be strict because if I'm not he'd have me serving him an unhealthy diet. I don't want him to grow up thinking he's entitled to order me or anyone else to cook special meals for him. I do season my food and cook it in other ways besides steaming or boiling. I would never let him not eat for a long time like some of you have described. Or try to serve him uneaten food for days on end like mommy dearest. I'd cave at that point. No idiots here, giving in to picky eating habits enables them and allows them to carry on into adolescence and ultimately adulthood. Things like this need to be curbed as soon as humanly possible. You're not starving your kid and you're not denying him food. You're weaning him out of a certain behavior. That said, this is 100% something you should be bringing up with your pediatrician. I would also ask if there's a pediatric nutritionist you could be referred to so that you can ensure what he's getting is wholesome and nutritious enough that when he does it, he's getting everything he needs. No idiots here. This is the age when some kids' taste buds go into hyperdrive. Also, kids don't always have the vocab to explain indigestion. So something he might have eaten easily in the past might taste bad now, or it might have made him sick. A lot of people have mentioned a 3-bite rule, and I'm going to second it. It's a decent compromise, and if he still doesn't like it, give him a peanut butter sandwich. Not the idiot. He asks for food and you are providing food. Unless it turns out he has an undiagnosed sensory issue, whatever, he won't starve himself. I'm not a parent myself, but have experience with siblings and much younger siblings and cousins. At that age, I've seen plenty of kids say they're hungry when they want to eat a specific thing. He probably isn't hungry, he's just saying it because he knows you react by giving him food if he says he's hungry, rather than just "I want." To make a very long backstory short, a few of my friends and I grew up in extreme poverty. It's almost the only reason we're friends these days, bonding over bad history. But we're adults now, and without sounding narcissistic, I'm the most financially wise person in the group. This has kinda led to them looking at me differently, but one, in particular, comes to me for financial advice a lot. Except for every time he does, it ends with him catching an attitude. I taught him how to build his credit or budget or how he can move out securely, etc. He's not on minimum wage, but goes half in on bills. He'll say he doesn't make enough to put any in savings. He does, I've helped him budget. And that's your privilege talking. He's desperate to move out, but when I've given him advice on saving up for 3-month rent and utilities, he needs a new phone first, some clothes first, and a new Xbox before he can start saving. His phone works, but I told him, if he wants a new phone, he could at least go for a $400 one instead of a $1,100 one, when he's just going to use the exact same apps on either. He also has an old Xbox, but it's social, and being social is detrimental for mental health. It's a good thing. This happens a lot. He gets very defensive and standoffish, and nobody asked your opinion on if I should buy something. And finally, he more or less whined about how much he needed this stimulus check and sent me screenshots of his bank account overdrawn. Then not 20 minutes later, posted screenshots of various decor and LED lights and which or what else should I get for my bedroom. And spent all of it on miscellaneous decor. A few days ago he told me he was going to quit his job, the third one this year, because he doesn't like it and it's bad for his mental health to stay, and asked me for advice again. I told him I wasn't comfortable talking about finances with him anymore because he never takes my advice anyway, and he gets mean. He got angry and said poor people deserve luxuries too, OP, so I said, with all due respect dude, there's a difference between being poor and choosing poverty. Now he and a few of our mutual friends are saying I'm a class traitor and a right-wing capitalist and that I'm becoming a smoothie. I'm not really apologetic for saying they're choosing to be poor. They're waiting for the system to change instead of learning it and taking advantage of it. I also don't know if I'm being too passive, inconsiderate, but they asked. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. He's going to dig himself into a very deep hole that will be even harder to climb out of. I don't understand why budgeting is so hard for some people. It's literally as simple as paying off your debts first, setting aside a monthly allowance for spending on groceries, and putting the remainder in savings. Sure, you might have some emergency bills or surprise payments, but not to the point where budgeting becomes useless. Not the idiot. I've learned most people don't truly want advice or help. They want to make excuses on why they can't do this or that. Basically, a magic easy button that they think exists. I'm typing this on a $150 phone with a cracked screen. I can buy any phone I want, but why drop $1,000 on something that does the same as this? Meanwhile, financially struggling friends have the newest versions, $200 shoes, brand new cars, and wonder why they are broke. Not the idiot. Him doing this kind of thing and claiming to be poor is crapping on people who don't have the means to feed themselves properly despite all their efforts. If there's any class traitor in the story, it's him. You can't dive deep down in consumerism and claim to care about those kinds of things. Sure, peer pressure is a thing, but being reasonable and living within your own means is another. Not blowing everything on entertainment doesn't mean that you can't entertain yourself. I have a babysitter who watches my 2 young girls while me and my husband go to work. She brings her daughter with her. She's always been great. One day, she was about 10 minutes late, which made me late for work. It's fine because it hasn't happened before, and she apologized and I thought we were all good. A day later, she lets me know that she had been helping my daughter on her iPad and some texts popped up between me and my husband. I was complaining to him that the babysitter was late that morning and it made me late to work. Well, she kept reading and read all our texts for the past month. I had also complained to him once that our babysitter had eaten all our Oreos. It was just funny banter, and I got over it quickly, but I was still whining. I would have never said anything to her about it. Anyway, the babysitter texted me the night before she was supposed to watch my kids next that she was quitting because of those texts she read. She was really hurt I would complain about her to him. I feel horrible but also violated that she read all our texts. I apologized for what I said, but I still feel sad about it all. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. You have the right to vent in private to your husband. You forgave her, but that doesn't mean it didn't affect your day. She violated your privacy. And she had to go back a month before finding anything else about her. If you text with any frequency, that's a lot of personal texts for her to have gone through. Any hurt she feels is her own fault. I would have fired her for reading through the texts. Seeing the one that popped up is one thing. Looking back through is another altogether. Not the idiot. You're not the idiot here. You are allowed to complain about people to your husband, especially if it's something you got over and wasn't a big deal. If you had been running your mouth to everyone about it, that would be a problem, but he's your husband. Furthermore, it is a huge breach of privacy to read messages, and in many countries, this is illegal just like how it is illegal to read other people's mail. You are not the idiot, and it's honestly a good thing she quit since she clearly has a significant disregard for your privacy. Not the idiot, she should never have been reading your texts. It takes a particular kind of nosiness to scroll a whole month back into someone's private correspondence. If she had left a pop-up banner, it would have gone away. Instead, she went foraging quite deliberately. It's a shame she was hurt, but she eavesdropped, and she definitely violated your privacy and your trust. I think once someone proves they've been reading your correspondence in any format, something happens to the trust between you. I think I would have let her go at that point. A basic tenet of leaving someone in your home is that they don't go through your papers. This is no different.